All right.
So Guy Murphy, Chapel Hill, North Carolina, Top of Hill Restaurant and Brewery, long time schedule fly customer. The centerpiece, you and your restaurant, the centerpiece of a really awesome promotional video we did it's like 10 years ago.
I was trying to remember how long ago that was. It was probably 10 years ago, at
It
least.
really, it was, and the funny thing is, I'll watch it every now and then. I mean, you can tell it was made a while ago, so we don't
Yeah.
use it anymore. But I mean, all this, it just y'all had such a great team, and y'all had so many awesome things to say, and it was just such a cool way to display kind of like what we hope to accomplish within a restaurant with our customers. But man, it's funny because we've not been really we try. I mean, to us, keeping schedule fly more the same than changing it is a good thing. So
Yeah.
that you know what it does, you know what you need to do, and so all the stuff people were saying back then, if we could just get some like modern film and modern music, reuse it.
No, that's it. That's it. I think I remember that video. I think it was filmed on, it might have been a Duke UNC game. You guys were up here because we had a good crowd. That was great. That was really great.
Well, okay. So as I was saying before we started recording here, Guy, you're the first of what we hope will be many of the awesome people that we're lucky to serve, and we feel very fortunate to serve, that have made hospitality a career. And I know when I talked to Scott, he said, "Look, Guy could do anything he wants. Like he could be anything. He could have done anything." And I mean, he obviously has tons and tons of respect for you and values you as part of his team so much. And you've chosen to make this your career. We're seeing an issue in the industry now where there are, I mean, you can barely get people to agree to work, and then when they do, maybe they don't even show up, and it's just it's so hard right now. And so we were thinking, okay, so we've got like all these restaurants all around, and we've come across all these amazing people over the years that, maybe they didn't start their own restaurant or own one, but they have been a part of it a long time. They've grown within an organization. They've taken on more and more responsibilities. They're part of a successful business, not just a successful restaurant. And they've chosen to make hospitality a career. And we really want to create some content that can be leveraged by all of our customers to share in any way that they want, to kind of start, just not that we're the ones spreading this word, lots of people are, but we want to help spread the word.
Yeah.
This is a freaking awesome career, and you can make good money and have flexibility and make a difference in people's lives, help people learn and grow, have good balance, have a family. It hasn't had that reputation for so long because it's sort of been like the stepping stone, or like, hey, what are you going to do next? This actually, this really gelled, this idea gelled when I was talking to Drew Moore down at Venable Bistro down the street from y'all. And he said he just made this comment. He's like, it really, I think he said he frustrates him, or he wishes people wouldn't ask his servers, like, what are you going to do next?
Right.
What do you want to do with your life?
Right.
This is a great thing. I was like, yeah, man, like what everybody assumes that, but this is a freaking awesome business. So
that's right.
So I just wanted to hear your story and, how you got started in the business and what you love about it.
Well, and there's a lot of, especially living and working in a college town, it's even more so, the idea of real job or that those comments. And like you just said, Drew, down there, they come up all the time, and it is frustrating. And personally, I'm originally from Colorado. I got my degree. I went to University of Colorado Boulder, got my degree through the journalism school, had some internships in public relations, worked with some big firms, but had always worked in restaurants throughout school. Started dishwashing at a, hotel restaurant right near campus, and moved up to prep cook and then served. And to me, I got into it, and that's why, I have to be careful, because I do understand here, we do have people in a college town who, some are making rent, some are working for, because their parents just told them they needed a job. Some, some are trying to stay alive. So there's levels of, why do you get into it? But it is an amazing job. And I got into it, because, my folks were like, well, you pay this amount, we'll pay this amount. I thought it was great. And it kept me working, kept me balancing school and work. So I worked through college, got out of school, was going to work for a PR firm within an engineering company, and just, grew up and not far from Boulder. I grew up in Morrison, Colorado. And a buddy of mine who was in restaurants, he was up in Big Sky, Bozeman, Montana, running his own and opening up some in Bozeman. And so I just sort of was like, there's, again, at that point, was I sure that it was going to be my career? No, but I certainly was drawn to it more than I was what I kind of went to school for. And I think that's probably somewhat common with people who have gotten into the industry. And once I got up there, saw him building his businesses, helped him work it. Then I moved out here. I had a friend who was going to pharmacy school here, and I'd never been east of the Mississippi. So again, another stop, I kind of was that same way. Like, okay, well, once I get out there, I know they've got this Research Triangle Park. I could probably get a job out there. Moved out here and actually started. It was the first time I'd ever walked up and down Franklin Street, and had thrown resumes around and again was drawn kind of back in. I actually went into Spanky's, which right across the street from us, and Chapel Hill Restaurant Group, great guys who run that, and Mickey Ewell at the time, who recently passed away. He happened to be in there, and I just had lunch at the bar, and he said, if you're looking for some shifts, whatever. So I said, I'll do that part-time, but again, I'm not sure if this is what I'm going to do. And from that point on, I started sort of managing the bar down there, and then got to know the folks here at Top of the Hill. And then ultimately there was a choice, and then got to know Scott and kind of saw the culture here. And this place had only been open a year and a half at that point, but could see the trajectory of this place. And again, a lot of it's about culture in any restaurant, which we can get into. But at that point I realized I was sort of maybe trying to fight my way out of the industry for whatever reason, and some of the things that people talk about, but then realized how much, and I'm glad I did, how much it's such a great, it touches every aspect of business, of culture, of the world, really, when you're working in a restaurant. And I talked to Mickey and was like, I'm going to moved across the street. It was good. Mickey gave my blessing, hooked up with Scott here, started bartending, waiting tables, ultimately started managing the bar, and then have worked here since, general manager, I guess 14 years ago, and have just really grown to love not just this place, but the industry in general. And to your point, you sort of, I think that story can be, I think some people get into it not knowing that it's what they're going to do for their career. And I think that it's a big leap for some people. It's not for everybody, but neither is any, you can look at any industry, and it's not necessarily for everybody, but it's a very fulfilling industry, which it's very team oriented. It's very people oriented. It's very, it's difficult, but it is frustrating when I see sort of my path, and as hard as I work, I have wife, 2 kids now here in this area, and they're all growing up, and they're growing up with a dad who works in the restaurant industry and understand that the hours can be difficult sometimes. And we're all in, they don't know any different. I don't know any different. And I understand looking outside in, sometimes the person having a business lunch asks the server, what are you going to do? What are you going to do for a real job? I get it. It is frustrating. I hate hearing it, but I get it. But then there's a lot more to it. And I think, we've had people work here who have gone on to do, again, a multitude of things, attorneys, a lot of people in DC, FBI, all these crazy things. Some have stuck with it and opened up their own restaurants. Right. And so but it is frustrating currently. We're fighting an uphill battle. We're starting every day coming from behind because we can't get the staff we need, and everybody's feeling it. And I, a lot of times, just look back and I'm so glad. I would never regret any of the decisions I made. And I'm very lucky to work for a guy like Scott and to be a part of his team and run the team that I have here. But it is difficult now to convince folks of that. They're not going to sit through my story and in an interview necessarily and think, well, great, 23 years I'll be sitting there with Will doing a doing a podcast talking about how great the industry, so and so that's sort of my trajectory and story, and here I am, and I try to cultivate that with our staff, because again, it's somewhat unique in a college town because there is a lot of transition. There's a lot of people going in and out, and we try to feed that idea of, I understand this can be a stepping stone, or it can be but while you're here, treat it as if it is your ultimate goal or your ultimate job, and you'll learn a lot and you'll enjoy it, and it's fun. It's good money. It's all these things.
Well, I always feel like, man, dude, if you can be successful at what you do with all the things that come at you in the restaurant world,
right?
Both from customers, from employees, from supply chain.
Yep.
Holy cow. If you can manage all that and keep your head on straight, dude, trust me, the corporate, like, it will be a lot easier. Like, because you'll be like, oh, I got this. Like,
I talked to a lot of our folks who, and I know some are being nice, but a lot come back and say, well, they'll end up going UNC law school, end up at a big firm somewhere, in those first couple of years at a law firm. I said, gosh, and they said, it's, I'm so glad I worked in the chaos and all that of top of the hill where we had to grind through all this, because it puts it in perspective now that you've moved on. And it's to me, the real job thing, I don't think there's much more of a real, if you really break it down, it's probably the more of a real job than you can find anywhere. It's you're dealing, it's just the face value of, you have to get the customer in your door, right? And you gotta, get them situated, take their order for their product, which we craft here, make them happy, entertain them, deliver the product. Hopefully they're satisfied with the product. Hope to God they come back sometime, all within an hour and a half, right? You're doing all this within an hour and a half. There's behind the scenes, there's the front of the house, you're dealing with ordering and all that. But our sort of, when we're on, it's that little hour and a half that a lot goes on, that some industries you can take your time and whatever. We've got to do it all within that little hour and a half, 2 hours. And again, hope they come back and hope they tell a friend to come, that sort of thing. And that to me is the biggest sort of, when I hear real job, I'm like, there's not much more real in terms of business and than that little hour and a half that you do over and over and over throughout the day, the week, the year is it's intense, and it's not for everybody, but it's more real than anything I can think of as far as a real job.
Well, and you hear a lot now too about, in corporate America, you hear a lot of mission statements about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and there's a lot of, PR around this stuff. I mean, you can't find a place that's more naturally, that's what I love so much about the industry, is because basically, if you show up when you're supposed to show up, and you give it your best for your team, and you help your teammates out, it doesn't matter where you went to school, what color your skin is, what your gender identity is, what your ethnicity is. It's like, dude, we don't care. Just we got you. Like, show up, and man, we'll support you all the way if you support it. I love that. That's just a naturally, organically inclusive world, and it's true. I mean, almost, pretty much in any restaurant anywhere. I mean, that's you talk about, like, a lot of companies. I mean, I used to work at Nations Bank back in the day, and I'm not slighting it, it's now B of A, but I mean, I remember, like, that one of the core values was inclusive meritocracy.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know what that meant when I was like, what did that mean? And I was like, okay, well, great, meritocracy, that's cool. You work hard and you get to earn. Well, there's a lot of politics ultimately in a lot of those big organizations. But boy, in the restaurant world, it's like, if you work hard, it doesn't matter anything else. Just give us all you got, and you're going to do well.
And I think that's it. And again, sort of back to what I say, it's all right there in front of you. And that aspect of it, you're right. And not only that, then your customers hope, and I know not every restaurant's the same. You've got this diverse customer base too. And then your team is working with that. And it's just, the great, and to me, and I've always been this way, solving any problem or any work day as a team, to me, at the end of the day, being able to look around, and I don't care whether it's your busser, your owner, your sous chef, whatever, looking, and, during the grind, you don't have time, but when you accomplish it and get through it, there's nothing better than looking your teammate in the eye and saying we did it, and getting up and doing it all over the next day. And it's tough and it's exhausting. It's physically, mentally, that this industry is, but at the same time, man, it's fulfilling. And to your point, to be able to, we have, again, with the university, we have students. We've always had a lot. We've got professional restaurant folks working for us. We've got folks who maybe moved here getting a year of residency in order to go to grad school. We've got students who are, like I said before, who are in school, undergrad, trying to make rent, that there's, and all different ethnicities and from all over the world, really, our staff, which is now, we're at about 70 people, part and full time. And it's this naturally diverse group that you're forced to work together. If you can't work together, it ain't going to work for anybody. Right. So you are in to it together. And it is so fulfilling when you can look, no matter the age or whatever. I've got kids who are 18 working for me, and I got guys in back of the house who've been here since day one, and they've got now kids who have worked for it's pretty neat. It becomes a very family oriented thing, because I think you are working so hard for the same goal. And it is, I won't lie, there's stress, right? But how you deal with that, and as long as the culture, we're big, I and Scott as well, big about culture. My thing, and anytime we interview or anybody new, it's, you got to respect from whatever you think the lowest position is all the way up to the top. The respect has to be there. If there's no respect, then it's not going to get anything done, because when we're in the weeds and we just need that person to help that person, that'll break down if there's not respect. So we preach that here. And then ultimately, what does it do? We have, and another great thing, and I don't think it's unique to us, but we've got, at this point, I can't remember how many, but Scott and I talk about topo babies, meaning people that worked here together at the same time and met while they're working here together, go on to get married and then have kids. And I think we're up to over 20 of these, and I don't know how many couples. I mean, these are people that have worked here. Now, I know there's people who've met here, whatever. These people work together, get married, have kids. There's generations now, and they come in, and there's nothing better than that, right? Like that, and that just lives on, and it becomes a special place to them. And I think that's part of it too, is, I think restaurants and bars and the whole industry in general, as a customer, they mean a lot. They mean things to you, whether it's the place you went where you were in college, or, oh, that's just a great place, I had a good meal, or I met my wife there. But as a customer, and I think as an employee, it's even more so, because you're entertaining that all day and working hard. And then you're making these relationships and working in a team. And I think that as you move on, and I talk to folks who move on, who come back for, visit or homecoming, who I haven't seen in 10 years. And they just look around like, gosh, this was just such a great time. And it's not unique to us. It's every restaurant. I think there's, a culture that you work hard, and it really does mean something to you. And then you come back as a customer, it means even more, and you really, really appreciate it. So
yeah,
there's that part of it too. And that's what I tell people when they start, I'm like, you're really going to enjoy it. We're going to work hard. We're going to have fun, but you really get a lot out of it. You'll get a lot out of it than just, tips, a paycheck, and that you're going to make relationships in a way that I don't think you can do. I don't know. I don't have a lot of experience in corporate world and that, but I think that the strengths of the relationships that you build in this industry are very rich and maybe a little more, I don't know. I think maybe mean a little more as you move on. And the stepping stone thing, I get it. Like, if, especially in a college town, it can be a stepping stone, but it can also be an amazing career that you have these moments where, people come back with their 3 kids and you're, geez, they were waiting tables here 15 years ago. Right. Like it's great. And I try to right now more than ever, I try to preach that to folks that, or not preach, but just let them know that you can really make a lot more out of this than just your, you know, just a job for now, and I'll get through it and then I'll have my real job. So.
Well, oh, I want to comment on that, but I have to ask this before I forget. So you worked in Boulder. What hotel? Were you a hotel Boulder?
It was called the College Inn. And I don't even know, it was down right near Boulder High School, right near where I lived. And it was sort of the kind of sort of the Carolina Inn of time. Now, I don't know if it's changed names. It was funny because I was thinking about that the other day after you reached out, and I was like, I wonder if that's still there, if it's been renamed or rebranded. But it was, I remember it was where the football team would sort of stay during the summer practices, and so we would do their banquets, and I mean, I thought this will be easy. I mean, it was a grind, but it was a great experience. And it was my first kind of, my older brother had worked in a couple of restaurants, and he didn't go to Boulder, but it was kind of just the job that I thought it would work in time wise with my schedule of school. And man, from then on, I always had a toe in the service industry. So.
We went out and my daughter's a senior in high school, and we
okay.
Boulder this summer.
Did you?
Yeah, but we backed into this lucky situation where we drove out there in an RV, and by the time we got there, she was like, well, "This is way too far from home." My wife and I didn't really. We were kind of hoping she wouldn't want to go there because it's just selfishly because it's so far. But we, would have supported her if she did. But man, what a beautiful campus!
It's a great town. It's a great town for sure.
So you were there then working in the early 90s?
Yeah, right. Yeah. And so, it was obviously things were different. And I was pretty much exclusively back of house, and then, did a little bit of waiting tables. And then I had a buddy, there was a bar in Denver in Larimer Square. It's no longer there. It was called Soapy Smith's. It had been there since the 70s. It's not there any longer. Great old place. I would go down there and bar back sometimes for him, just like if I had a Monday morning off, I'd take the weekend down there. So it was just one of those things. That's the same guy that ended up moving up to Montana. And so it just, it just fit for me. And still, like I said, I kept sort of nudging my way out thinking, okay, and then it just became, it's a fit. And, a lot of every restaurant's different. Scott and I, work very well together. Scott, the proprietor, and I work very well together. And, the culture that we've built, it's a place you want to be. And as chaotic as it gets, it's great. But yeah, my experience in Boulder was it was a lot of fun. It was great.
Well, like I said, Scott has always spoken so highly of you, and just, and I think so much of Scott. The industry right now, I mean, there's literally nowhere in the country, nowhere where I talk to an owner or a GM or somebody that we serve that didn't say, man, we're having a really hard time finding people to work. Mm-hmm. I mean, I have some ideas. Like, why do you think that? Has it changed? Like, okay, so today, now, finding people to work versus, let's say, 5 years ago, is it 10 times harder? Or I know it's always, there's challenges with it, but
it is. And, I think it's easy to blame, okay, the pandemic happened and then there's unemployment. And I hear that a lot. And I don't know if I'm sure that's partially true. Yeah. And, and I can't speak as much for other industries. For ours, though, I do think, there's, and it's, for us, it's both front and back of the house. We're pretty lucky coming out of it because of the college we had in this summer, because we had university students who weren't in school, but then, a month ago, they're back from 6 shifts a week to 2. And then back of the house, we've got some of those guys went to construction and didn't come back, and I don't know. I'm not sure why if it's has something to do with, again, some preconceived notions of how, you know, whether it's how hard it is to work in a restaurant, or whether maybe people just aren't comfortable. It could go all the ways. People aren't comfortable being in a room full
Yeah.
of people. And I don't know. It is, I would say, you know, compared to 5 years ago, way more difficult. I mean,
Yeah.
percentage, I don't know, but I'm finding it for us that way. And, you know, again, like I said before, we're sort of starting, and then you've talked to everybody all over the country. You're kind of starting every day behind, and you're just hoping who's showing up, you know, and it's really hard to go in confidently every day into what you need to do, kind of what we were talking about before, which is in itself so difficult when you're not sure if you're going to have everybody show up. And the problem is, if somebody doesn't show up, you can't really, they've kind of got you, because if they come back the next day like, sorry boss, I didn't show up and I missed my alarm, whatever, you know, 3 years ago it's, you suspend them, but now it's, you don't want to screw yourself for the long term. It's like, well, I got you today, you know, I got you tomorrow. And I think that there's a lot of leverage that wasn't there before too with folks. And again, the majority of folks that we have are great, but you got to take some, you know,
Yeah.
you got to take some flyers, because you're hoping, you just, you know, you got to get enough people on the line. You got to get enough people to make it work. And I think, you know, because the last thing you want to do, I know some customers will understand, but there's a limit, and there's some customers who won't understand at all, and that's not their fault. They don't necessarily know what we're dealing with, and you know, I wish I had the answer. I wish, you know, and you could say pay more, pay more, pay more, and that gets you so far, but then it's gonna, you know, then, you know, what happens then? So, you know, it is difficult, like I've never experienced, and I know it's been an unprecedented year and a half. And I think a lot of it is a direct result of that. But I do think that, you know, it may be something deeper, that folks just have a notion of what a day in the life is, and maybe they're not up to it, you know. I don't know. And I do think, you know, the benefits and that sort of thing, and I can't speak for people. There are people who need it, and you know, that's the politics of it. I don't get into, because it's just, I'm just trying to get
Yeah. No, right. I got you.
get through it, you know.
Are people, I mean, but people are making more now than they ever have, right? I mean, you can make good money now. Wages have gone up, and
Yeah.
You all are paying as much as you ever have, and I'm sure as much as you can. So
Well,
yeah,
and
probably throwing more money at it's really, I
it's
don't think
hard.
that's it.
Yeah. And you know, we through via social media, I mean, even putting signs up, you know, and they're, you can go over, and you know, they should go through any town, and you'll see banners or signs, or every door almost. You walk up and down Franklin, there's a lot of, you know, hiring, you know, we're hiring for front, back of the house, and everybody's feeling it. And it's tough. I thought, you know, a year and a half ago, no one knew anything, right? We didn't know what the future was, but I thought it was going to be the opposite, sort of like,
Me too.
screw it, man. People are ready. Let's get back at it. You know, we're tired of being, and it's, that part of it has been the opposite of what I had forecasted. And it's disappointing, and it's tough. And every operator that I'm sure you talk to and have talked to is probably going to somewhat repeat what I'm saying. And I wish there was a better answer. You know, I think what you're doing here, advocating for the fact that, man, it's a great career. It's a great job. It's a great career, whether you do it the rest of your life or you do it. It's a great place to understand business, understand people, understand the meaning of a team. You really, it's an amazing lesson. You know, you hear it all the time. I think everybody should work at some point in a restaurant. You know, I hear that a lot, and I do, certain degree. I'm getting a repeat here. Sorry. I think it's echo.
Is it echoing?
Yeah. Sorry.
Huh.
I don't. I didn't
Uh,
touch anything. Okay, it
I
stopped.
didn't either.
It stopped.
It
That
is
was weird.
stop. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so start what I was saying that I hear a lot. I wish everybody would work in a restaurant so they would understand. I do that. That'd be great, but I don't necessarily. It's not the best fit for everybody. There's a lot of jobs that aren't a great fit for me, and but I
Yeah.
do. If I we're in this business of entertaining really and being hosting people. And I think that if people could kind of get by some of the preconceived notions and understand that really, man, you're creating experiences for folks with a team, and it's a fun job, and it is a great lesson in communicating with people. You communicate with hundreds of strangers a day. Well, you don't, there are jobs where you do that, but I doubt there are many. You're dealing with your teammates every day. You're dealing, like I said before, you're doing this whole dance in an hour and a half, 2 hours that you can't get in many other industries. And I hope that people listen to that message and realize that, you know, if you're if you're getting back to work, man, this is a good spot to be. Any restaurant, really.
Do you have any high school students that work there, or do they have to be?
We have, yeah, typically during the summer, we'll have a couple. Right now, we don't. Typically during the school year, they don't. But in the summer, we'll have, a lot of times bussers and hosts will, local Chapel Hill kids we've had in the past. Yeah, not a lot. Certainly during the school year, they're they usually take off, and then we'll come back for vacation, summer breaks.
I'll tell you why I asked that question. I had an interesting conversation the other day with a guy who he knows or had an opportunity at something to speak to the person who runs admissions at University of Pennsylvania, which I think is an Ivy League school.
Yeah, yeah.
Tough to get into, right? And she said, if I see one more example of, hey, I went on a mission trip to Africa this summer. Not there's anything wrong with that, but she's saying like it's like this. I see it over and over and over, and it's like this little stamp you put on there, and half that's vacation anyway. And she goes, I would much rather see somebody that took the summer and went and worked at. I think her example was Dairy Queen. She goes,
Right.
if you really want to see like what right around you, you don't have to go all the way like right in your own little bubble, just outside of it. There are people that are struggling to get by. There are people that are trying to, work 3 jobs just to pay their rent and feed their kids. There are, there are people of all different races and backgrounds and ethnicities and socioeconomic status and all that kind of shit. She goes, that's where like that to me, that's something I'd want to see, because that's somebody that's actually getting immersed in like, the reality of how many struggles people have and how diverse our country is on its own. I thought that was really interesting. That's what led me to ask that question, because I started thinking, like my daughter's a senior right now, and we're actually she's looking for something, a job, a part-time job. I'm like, that's what you need to do. Like, you need to go find something where you're like not in your bubble that we operate, and we all do. I mean, you get out of it and go. I mean, that's a perfect place to do that. So I was just curious.
Yeah, no, it's such good practical experience, and even someone as young as high school. And we've had a couple hosts who've done that and then gone to college somewhere else and come back for summers and waited tables, and you can just sort of see this growth, and you can see that it is worthwhile. And people, like I said before, and I'm sorry if I keep repeating myself, people that come back in and really, they're not blowing us up. They're just saying, man, this was a good experience, and it really did teach me something. And that's not unique to us. I think it could be Dairy Queen or anywhere else.
Yeah.
The practical experience of not just business, but just, how, and this is getting a little grand, like just sort of like you said, how the world kind of works and how diverse it is, and how, you're going to deal with, everybody's different. Your customer, you're going to have a table of, you could have a table of college kids here, a table of executives here. You could have, who you just don't know. And what a great experience to come in contact and work, work at providing a service for these folks. I think it's just such a great practical experience. I tell my kids are 9 and 11, and my 9-year-old sometimes listens to this. I say, they ask all the time because they'll come up and I said that, the great thing is every day is different. And in restaurants, I think, especially when you walk in the door, you don't know, is this going to be a day that is just sort of another day? Is there something great that's going to happen that you're going to remember? Is there something awful that's going to happen that you're going to have to work through? And then, but it's every day you unlock that door, and there is a vast amount of possibilities and people that are going in. And I think that, to me, is so exciting and fulfilling, good and bad, that every day you have that opportunity to serve folks, and you don't know what's coming at you necessarily. And with all the chaos and this and that, and you get through it and you do it over again. Right. And that takes a team and a good culture and a good culture in the restaurant. But I think that's what keeps people in it. That's part of what I really enjoy. And what I try to tell my kids, that's kind of what you want when you get up in the morning and go to work, whatever you're doing, is that feeling of looking forward to it, knowing there's going to be good, bad, and otherwise, but that gets you up and unlocking the door every day. So
I wish I had, I really wish in college, it would have benefited me so much to have had a job in a restaurant. And I think this is the pitch I would make to any college student. You're in a college town there. Look, you're going to learn so much in the classroom, and it's great, but college is its own little bubble, right? And it's certainly a wonderful thing, but boy, you get out there in the real world. And I got slapped in the face with really trying to navigate, look, all these things that almost any job, persuasion, salesmanship, conflict resolution, time management, there's all these skill sets that you're not going to get in the classroom. And hustling to make more money, trying to make more tips by engaging customers. These things, we can just, but those things are man, if you have a foundation in that, it accelerates your value, anything else you do.
If you can wait a table on a game day at top of the hill, if you can navigate a 12-hour shift with hundreds of people, whatever, you are going to nail your interview, whatever it might be. Totally. When you go for your career job or whatever you think, you're going to have that part of it, that intimidation, that face-to-face communication. And in today's world, again, there's less and less of that. Because I think you can probably, some degrees you can go through at the university without having much at all, any face-to-face contact with folks. Yeah. But the real world's, and I know it doesn't seem that way, especially now that it's so important. And like I said, man, if you can navigate a busy shift in any restaurant and sustain it and understand it, problem solve, all the things you talked about, the interviews and whatever past that that's nothing. Not nothing, but it's going to be a heck of a lot easier.
It'll be a lot easier. Well, I know you're busy, so I'm going to let you go, but I will say, I will be interested to see if this happens. My theory, sort of my big 30,000 foot view, is you got the things that can be automated, and this is not just restaurants. This is accounting, legal, everything that can be automated is being automated, and it's accelerating, and it will continue to accelerate. My thought is, my guess is that McDonald's or Dairy Queen or where you need quick, super fast service drive-throughs, I bet 10 years from now, there's one dude in there, one gal in there, that just maintains the equipment. and everything's robotic. I mean, they have robotic coffee shops in, I think it's San Jose and San Francisco airport now, where there's literally not an employee. They have a robot. It like dances and it makes every drink, even latte art, right? So there's like a barbell. Like on this end, you got all that, and you need that. You're in a restaurant, you're on the road, you need something quick, you got hungry kids. Perfect. Okay. Then, but the more exposure you have to that, the more you value this, right? You value the looking in the eyes, the personal communication. And I say this, you and I are on a computer right now, but I mean like the real world application of this, of like a real conversation where you're sitting down, you're enjoying time with your friends or your family, or you're celebrating or you're mourning, and you want not just good food, you want a good atmosphere, you want personal interaction with somebody that, and so I think that we're just moving in this, this binary world, and see, everything seems to be binary now. Like, so, but we're going to where you're going to have all these ones over here. There's like almost no people involved. Great. And then over here, and we may have fewer restaurants because of this. You may have a contraction, but where you have like the best operators, you and Scott and so many of the people we're lucky to serve are like running these badass places with great people. And guess what? Then that becomes like something that maybe becomes more attractive as a career, because there are going to be fewer jobs. I mean, there just are. Automation's just going to, and so, but that's not a bad thing. It just means that like people that may have been over here working in some way now get to work over here. And now we've got these freaking restaurants where it's like world-class service, anytime you go in for that reason. So I don't know. We'll see. That's
I'm with you, man. I think we got to think that way. I think the people is such an important part of this industry. And I get it, the automation and all that, but I think to your point, you can't replace personality. People want that. Maybe not everybody wants it, but I know a lot of people do. And I'm with you that places like ours and that rely on people as a personality for the business, you can't replace that. And I think it's important. And I think to your point, it's going to become more and more important, and it might be more and more binary, but it's going to make this a very important thing, what we do and what other operators do when, you bring people into your establishment. I agree.
Yep.
Totally.
Well, look, man, can't thank you enough for the time you came in. I mean, for those listening,
schedule flies the great, man. I'm telling you, because I remember way back when we first started it up, man. The beauty of it is, and this isn't a commercial for you, but man, it is just not really it is just what we needed. And during the communicating throughout when we were shut down, it was the greatest way for me to communicate to every one of my staff members, to keep them up to date on what we might be doing. We're keeping our hand, every couple times a week, I would just send out a note to everybody. Listen, here's what's happening. This is what we're hearing. And this up until we opened up, man. But it's been we love it. You guys are great. We love the partnership.
That was very kind of you. You didn't have to say that. Thank you.
Awesome.
We appreciate that. Well, look, hopefully I'll be, well, we'll see. Hope this damn Delta thing gets through, and we can, because I really want to come hang with y'all sometimes.
Please do.
I'm very cooped up here, but well, look, Guy, thank you very much, man, for the time. Thank you for the conversation. That was awesome. I learned a lot. I know anybody that listens to this will learn a lot, and just appreciate you a lot, man. Really do.
Thank you for doing this. I think this is going to be a great series, and I think it's an important message, and really appreciate you getting it out there.
All right, man.
All right. Well, great seeing you, man.
See you.